Hey, hello guys, I'm back and this is gonna be a part 13 and we're gonna continue where we left off in a uh, in a for replication topic. So guys, we're gonna talk about this one. There are a couple of options we need to know, or the topic we need to know rather. One is a permanent failover, perform failback, and undo failover. And basically, why you want to do a permanent failover. So actually, you know what? Let's see the practical example first. Okay, guys. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna right-click on this one, and we're gonna do a, for example, failover now. So when we do a failover now, it's going to ask you for a VMware failover wizard. So I'm going to click next, and now normally they ask you like, hey, why you want to failover? So you can write a reason, and you say don't show this page again. It's up to you, but we're going to say, hey, this is a test. This is a test, and we're going to say next. So when you do next, it's going to ask you the store point is less than a day old, right? So I'm going to click here finish. So what I'm doing is I'm simply doing a failover to this machine. This is the replica, right? So let's click on it. Actually, you have an option to choose the point right here. So you remember we configured like seven points. So it's been, I think, 7 hours since we made the last video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually 6. My mistake. So these are the 6 ones. So let's see right here. So if I go here and what was my machine actually? Right here. See, remember this thing we were why we got this thing actually here? Alarm, the MAC conflict. Even though we killed it last time, so I don't know yet what's the permanent solution gonna be for this one, but I can clear this thing. So if I right-click here and do snapshot in the snapshot manager, and see right here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they are matching. Actually, let me. I want to see both the screens at the same time, but we should be. So we can do it like this. Okay, here you go. So see this one, the same thing. So if we don't want to use the Veeam, for example, we can without the Veeam software, if you create this snapshot manually using VMware, if you want to revert it back to whichever point you want to, you click on that point and you say, hey, go to, and then it will get reverted back to this one. Or for example, you think this is the machine, the last final snapshot is the one. What you can do it in that case, you can actually delete all. So when you click on delete all, it gives you the option, hey, this will consolidate and remove all the snapshot from this virtual machine. All the snapshot will be consolidated to a single disk. Do you want to continue? Obviously, we don't want it to continue it, but this is another way you can get rid of all the snapshot and everything gonna get merged into the main machine. So I'm gonna actually close this thing. That was just for example. So right here, so I can choose, let's say, hypothetically, back to the original 429 Veeam when we started, right? I can choose any one, but I'd rather choose this one for now. and I'm gonna click. And also the other thing is if you want to add if you have more VMs, for example, we don't have the VMs like, for example, more replicas, but we can pick from infrastructure. So let's say this was your Exchange server hypothetically, and you wanted to start to a like a DR side, and you don't have the domain controller, so the Exchange will not work. So in this case, you can actually add a domain controller, for example, and you can set the priority, which one going to will boot first and which is going to boot second, and you can put the delay between the two. So I'm going to click on next, next, and what was this one? Restore region. Finish. And right here you can see it actually so we are powering this machine on C. This became powered on automatically, and it says failover completed successfully. This was a reason, this was the parameter to that 429, and these are the logs. And I'm going to close this thing. So now technically this machine is running. This replica is running. And if we have, I mean, the thing is, this machine on the other side is also running, because we actually just did a failover, because in a real scenario, this machine would have shut, like something happened to this machine, and this was not available. So I'm gonna go and shut down manually actually. Holy cow. Okay, that's fine. So now this machine is running, and how do we know it's running or not? See, right here we were continuously pinging, and now the ping is actually stopped, and it should come back up. See, this time it got the IP address 195, and from previous experience we know it's not going to ping because a DNS is still caching, because we pinging the name, not the IP address. So I'm going to cancel this thing, do ipconfig / flush DNS, and now you do a what you call it, I can do this thing too, nbt stat / rr. Okay, just refreshing the names. If I go back and pinging this machine, now this thing is pinging. So it got the same 174 IP address. So, and if I cancel this thing from here, if I do mstsc and go to cti-pvs-01, and I can connect to that one. See right here. So this is the replica running actually. Maybe, okay, no, I thought maybe the console is somebody's logged in. So you can see this is the IP address and a host name. So now what happened actually? I'm gonna minimize this thing. So what happened basically? What did we do? We had a machine. We had a machine the original machine, uh, right here, CTI PVS-01, where we had the replica on that machine running right here using Veeam, right? And we had a 7 different um, snapshots created by Veeam. And we chose the first snapshot because for some reason this machine went down, in real case scenario. I know I turned it off, but let's say there was a problem with this machine and this machine went down and we brought this replica up. So basically, if everything is planned perfectly, it should not take more than I would say 6 minutes. The reason I say 6 minutes is normally for server to boot, if it boots within 3 minutes, 180 seconds is acceptable as far as the standards are. So if we say 3 minutes here and 3 minutes here, let's say 6 minutes, so let's say within 5 minutes. Normally this can be done if you have a SSDs. This can be done in like 30 seconds actually. So within a minute you have your replica up and running and there's no interruption. If this were to be an Exchange server, then the clients will like say, hey, disconnected, but the Outlook will be still running because in most of the newer client they use a cache. So nobody will know the difference unless you are going to access some particular files or trying to print, if that happened to be your print and file server. But again, if this was happened to be a you know file and print server, if you configure it properly, they have some kind of option. If if the server goes down, then the workstations are smart enough, they can go straight to that IP address without going to the server. I mean, that's a separate topic to talk about. But what I'm trying to say is failover successfully. So if you remember my original comments on this one, this was just half the battle. Now your production machine is running from here. Now what to do, right? So now if you click on this one, now you're gonna see a different options. Now you see, hey, the failover now is ghosted because we already chose this option. Planned failover is not an option because it's already failed over. So now you have a option like permanent failover. So what is permanent failover basically, and why would you need a permanent failover? So that's what I wanted to see. Like, I wanted to show you guys this part before we talk about it. So basically, the permanent failover is if you wanted to switch from original VM to a VM replica and use this replica as the original VM. Why? Okay. Now, what's the options on here? A fail permanent failover and a undo failover, and add to this one. So the other option is if we do undo failover, for example. What is undo failover? I mean, switch back to the original VM and work with the normal operation mode, right? So if I do undo failover, technically what will happen, this machine gonna go down, the replica, and your original machine should come back up. So we can test that, or the third option is a permanent failover, meaning let me permanent failover. So the permanent failover is actually, maybe I misspoke earlier, but the permanent failover is when you switch from the original VM to a VM replica and use this replica as the original VM permanently. Like this machine, the one we have the original one. If I delete this machine, for example, or this machine is no longer available, so in that case, what we will do is we will do a permanent failover. When we do permanent failover, that machine is gone. This machine is gonna stay forever. And of course you can do a undo failover. And obviously the undo failover is switch back to the original VM and work with its normal operation, the way it was. And the key things to remember here is if I do undo failover, um, whatever changes were done, actually, you know what? Let's do this one. This is the machine we are on. So if I click here and I create a folder called failover, oh come on, failover test 1. So now we may basically modify this replica machine, right? So if I do the undo failover, then uh, this machine, the changes I made, that's going to be gone because it's going to go back to my original machine, and these changes will not be committed to the original machine. That's where I'm actually driving at. So the question is, hey, why and what scenario you want to do a undo failover? you know. So there's only one reason for this thing is testing. If you would just want to test it, there are show backup and show replica the options in Veeam. They can do this thing for you. At a scheduled interval without your interaction. We just have to set it up one time and set up the plan. But this is just one of the options where you can do it manually if you want to, or if you wanna restore some file, but that's a separate topic. So like I mentioned it, the failover is intermediary task, so you have to actually go to the next step, like we mentioned it, either do a permanent failover or undo failover, and in what you call in some cases you do a perform failback, which we're going to talk about it. The failback option we're talking about is right here. I'm going to cancel this thing. I'm sorry. So these are three options. Permanent failover, meaning hey, this machine going to be used as a production machine going forward. You can do undo failover, meaning whatever changes we made during this time, this is just for testing, for example, so it's going to go back to the production machine and this is going to go back to its normal. And then you have a failback. Once you do a failback, the reason I'm repeating myself, it's kind of there's a reason behind it, because the reason behind repeating for you guys to understand, because you are going to be quizzed in exam about the options when you do failover. What do you do? How you do? What are the purpose for these options? And in real life, I want you guys to understand, once you do failover, what three options do you have? So it's not like for fun. Somebody goes and do a failover and then they say, oh, I don't know what I did, so he just moved on. The machine was failed over and nobody noticed because everything is working fine. And until such time where you realize, oops, the failover actually was committed or was done by somebody, and now instead of this exchange, all of our emails going to this production exchange, instead of this one is going to the replica. And so these kind of things are very important. That's why if you look under properties, not on this property actually, when we were configuring the job, you have an email notification. So those email notification goes to whoever is responsible, and all that person has to do is to look at it. If he sees a replica email coming, switch over, that's the red flag. So what we can do it actually for testing purposes, I can do permanent failover. It's not a big deal. We did it on our first video manually. I can do undo failover. We have done this thing in the previous video where we manually did it, not through the Veeam, but the concept is same. What we're gonna do it actually, I'm gonna add. I'm gonna fail over to the production. So I want to show you actually the changes I made here. Let's do a document like an other change for fail to production. Let's see if it's going to be successful or not, right? So I'm going to actually log out from here. I don't want this thing to be actually, you know what? That's a good idea to leave it logged on. So let's see what happened. When the users are logged on, they're doing some business, right? So I'm going to leave this thing here, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go to Failback to production. And this is the machine. I want to click next. Actually, I'm going to do a populate. There's nothing. When you populate it, just get updated, I guess. So if you do next. And right there, you have a 1, 2, 3 options. So number one is fail back to the original VM. Guys, trust me, you're gonna be quizzed on this thing. It's like, from exam perspective, they're gonna say, hey, when you do a fail back to production, what are the options? You can fail back to production. It doesn't mean fail back to the production VM. You can fail back to the production network. So fail back to the original VM. Yeah, use if your production site is restored. In case of, without any infrastructure changes, for example, you have power outage, power came back, so you can restore it, and the original VM is still present at the same location. That's the key point. Your original VM should be present at the same location. Only difference between existing virtual disk and their actual state or replica will be transferred over the network. What they're saying is only the disk, virtual disk, going to be migrated. None of the other settings going to be migrated. So if you, for some reason, you move the machine from that original location to a different folder, for example, it's still running on the same ESXi, but that's going to fail because it's not copying your all other rest of the files. Let's see what other rest of the file we're talking about. We're talking about is if you click here, for example, this machine is running here, right? So if I go under if I browse the database where this machine is running from, and I go to this one, see all these other other files are running your NVRAM. This is the VMD. This is the actual disk, and VMX is the one which actually contains the configuration file. If you delete this thing, then your machine will not power on because it will not know what configuration. So this is the machine which saved the configuration, and the others are different files, and these are the log files. So basically, what we're saying is, when we do a failover back to the production machine, the original machine, only this disk is going to be copied back. I'm not sure about the VMX file, but I'm pretty sure about the VMDK file. VMDK file is just like a VHD file or the C drive. So for example, if you instead of running from this folder right here, the CTIPVS, if I move this machine somewhere else, that's going to be very easy for me. For example, if I remove this machine from the inventory and I click here, add to the inventory under a different location, then the machine is still going to be available here, but that machine not going to be running on its original location. So if I move this files from here to a different position, location, and then I add to the inventory. Obviously, if I add to the inventory, it's going to stay where it is. I think I'm stepping into the VMware discussion, which I don't want to do it actually this time, but here you go. So you can do a failback to your original machine. Now you have a failback to the original VM restored in a different location. So if for some reason you move that machine from there to a different location, right, or in a different ESXi host because of your ESXi host was failed, and then you went. Let's say the reason you moved to Replica is because your ESXi went down, right? So you created another ESXi, and somehow you restored that, that file, or that VM, and now you want to fail over this one to that. So let's see, use if you have restored the original VM from backup, basically, to a location that is different from original. Only difference between existing virtual disk and their actually state on replica will be transferred over the network. Again, if you restore it to a different location, then it's gonna copy only the actual state on replicas will be transferred. And now it's like this one is the advanced one, Failback to specified location. If you do not have original VM remains available anywhere in the failback destination, actual state of the entire replica VM disk will be transferred to the destination site, resulting in a significant network traffic. So what they are saying is everything will be moved back to a new location. This way is it's gonna actually take a lot of network traffic. Um, and this one is restore VM tag. Select this option, restore tag. They were assigned to the original VM when replica restore point when replica restore point used for failover were created. Replica VM will be powered off for the duration of failback. So what they're saying is, hey, make sure when you are failing back to the original, you need to schedule this thing. It's not like during the production hour you click on it. So that's what they're saying. The replica won't be available, so is the original machine will not be available during this time. And you can here pick the proxies for data transfer if you like to. Otherwise, the automatic selection, if you have it from the data proxy side, you can choose one, you know, and also from a production, you can choose one. I mean, unfortunately, we don't have a DR site, but the concept is the same. And then I'm going to go back to the original VM and click next. And now it's going to start loading it. And I want you to actually see it, how this thing is performing. So basically, we are telling VMware, I'm sorry, not VMware, the Veeam, hey, move this replica right here back to this one. Um, Actually, I have to finish it. Powered. Okay, right here you have an option, powered on VM after restoring. So I'm going to click this option, and I'm going to say finish. So production side automatic selection. So this is the VM. Okay, here you go. And it's going to do it. And what I want to show you right here. So this VM replica should power off, and the changes we made on that desktop, we should see the changes on this one. And okay, I want to see if the machine is going to be powered on or not. That should be powered on, right? Yeah. I mean, we can close this thing, but and then we can see the logs. But let's see. So while it's restoring it, so now you guys see it. The permanent failover, the failback, and undo failover. Why would you need this thing in a permanent failover? No transferring, because changes are originally going to stay with the replica, and the perform failback. All the changes done on this one are going to the original production VM. When we do undo failover, then all the changes are discarded. And just for a food for thought is like, why would we do a promote replica? Because if your replica is on a same site as the production, then you don't care, because if one ESXi host got crashed, you use the second one on the same site. And when you do a failback, the one we are doing it, this one is actually for a disaster recovery. Your primary site went down, you guys switched over to disaster recovery site, and then the primary site came back up. Now you want users to log in back to the production site, and all the replication going to be done. Now you see right here how long it's taking, because it says only 6% done. So there are two things to remember. Number one is this thing has to be done during when you have a production down, not production down. It's kind of when you set up a schedule for downtime, like, hey, during the downtime we're going to do the migration back to our original production site. And also, if we don't plan it properly, like if we don't have a proper proxies or proper network configuration, basically the proper planning is the best. So this way, probably the speed is going is 2 minutes and it's 13%. So probably it's going to take 10 minutes, maybe sooner. So let's see. So guys, what we did for one machine, we could have done it with a bunch of different machines. If we had a failover plan, in that failover plan, what it's doing it. Let's close this thing. We can always go back and see it. I'm gonna clear this thing, and right here under this was my first application. So actually, while it's running, we don't see the other option for the plan one, but let's see under replicas, active job, last 24 hours. So right here, this is running statistics right here, the same. So it's been 4 minutes and it's 28% done. So 30% done in 5 minutes. So it looks like it's going to take 15 minutes. I paused the video for 2 minutes and still it's 39%. I want to show you something actually while we're waiting for this thing. It's been 33 minutes, but let's go to while it's doing it. So like I said, the Veeam.com is the source of information. So if we do a Veeam Failback to production, and let's see a Failback, it was October, and that's the actually the latest one. And see, you notice here is, it's a little bit different for HyperV versus vSphere, VMware, and the both are October 31st. Since we're doing a what you call it, a HyperV, I mean VMware. So you can, if there is any confusion, or it's a lack on my part explaining it, like, hey, you didn't get it, hey, what the heck are you talking about, you can always go back right here, on this website. I mean, you can Google it, go for a replica failback. That's what we are actually doing it, and it's 9.5. You can fail back to the VM, to the original location, the one we talked about it, and these are the other, and you can see this thing. But what I wanted to show you here, right here, the diagram actually, which is worth 1,000 word, maybe a million words. So this was our backup server, and this was the VMware, this was a source host, and this was the original VM, the working failback snapshot. And so what happened is right here, this was the VM replica, and these are the snapshots. See, they're using the 6 snapshot, but we have a different snapshot. So when we did a rollback, so let's say number one and two, We got so how to actually you have to read it here. If the original VM is running, VM backup replication power it off. Number two, VM and replication create a working failback snapshot of the original VM, and then VM backup and replication calculates the difference between disk of the original VM and disk of the VM replica in the failover state. Difference calculation help Veeam and replication service understand what data needs to be transported to the original VM to synchronize it with the VM replica. So this way, if you are restoring it to the original location, then it's just simply going to copy the difference. It's not going to copy the whole block. And the only thing we changed, we created a couple of files on the desktop in our machine to test it. And here, Veeam and replication transport change data to the original VM. So that's the number 4 they're talking about. Like, where's number 4? Number 1, 2. Here's number 4. So this is changing to the Delta snapshot. Veeam backup and replication transport change data to the original VM. Transported data is written to the Delta file of the working failback snapshot on the original VM. And then with power of the replica, which it did in our case right here, not yet. Really? Can I refresh it? Alright, that's the way to refresh it. So still it didn't update because it hasn't done anything because it's still copying the data actually. So once it's done copying the data, it should power off this thing, the replica, and power off until you, okay. The replica remains powered off until you commit failback or undo failover. Veeam backup and replication create a failback protective snapshot for the VM replica. The snapshot acts as a new restore point and save the pre-failback state to the VM replica. Okay, let's see what they're talking about. Huh? So we go back here. So this was our original machine. We know we have 6 replicas right here. Okay, so we had a 6 replicas, but we chose the first one. Remember, the one which was like at 429. So what happened when you restore to that point? All other rest of the points are gone. So if you choose that machine to the first snapshot, then you lose the option to go back to the second one. So that the lesson is like, hey, you very be careful which replica you're gonna be rolling back to. So we are here, but it also created a temporary restore point as per number 6. Remember, it's called a protective snapshot for VM replica. So why it did that? You can use this snapshot to return to the pre-failback state of the VM replica afterward. And the Veeam backup and replication, I don't know why they don't say the VBR instead of Veeam backup and replication. So VBR calculate the difference between the VM replica and the original VM once again and transport change data to the original VM. A new synchronization cycle let VM backup and replication copy a portion of the last minute changes made to the VM replica while the failback process was being performed. So let's see if the VM is available. right? So VM is still available actually, even though it's trying to restore it. So we can actually go back here and create a cha changes after replica back to production started, right? Let's see. So Veeam backup replication, remove the working failback snapshot to the original VM, changes it into the snapshot delta file or committed to the original VM. The state of VM replica is changed from failover to failback. So guys, this thing is kind of things to remember: failover to failback. Veeam backup and replication temporarily put replication activities for the original VM on hold. If you have selected to power on the original VM after failback, Veeam and replication power on the restored VM on the target host. If you fail back to an entirely new location, Veeam and backup replication perform the following operation, which is not what we're doing it right now. Veeam backup and replication transport all VM replica files and store them on a target data store. Veeam backup and replication register a new VM on a target host. If you have selected to power on, blah, 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 Veeam will power on. So this is the basic concept. Trust me, you have to do it like, several times to be the expert. So now you see this one is actually replicating restore point of the hard disk. So at this point is doing it. So it took 14 minutes for calculation. So here's the deal, guys. Look, I have a pretty solid infrastructure, and most of my hard drives are SSDs, and I am using a very stable platform. And right here you see it is I just moved one machine to create a replica, which was done pretty fast originally. Then we created a six snapshots, and we are restoring replica first snapshot using first snapshot back to the production and see how long it's taking. And this machine says 500 gig, GB, but this machine is only I think around 18 gig worth of data because this one is 10 provision. So now you imagine if you have a 1 terabyte thick provision machine, and you're gonna move across the DR side, how long that gonna take? So that's why it's very important. The planning is very important. I know we have a poor planning on our part. Um, Actually, why does it say the first replication failed? I don't know. Job started, blah blah blah. All VM has been queued for processing. Uh, okay. I mean, that's the whole idea, to have a first-hand, out-of-the-box experience, right? Like in our previous video when I was using oh, this was doing Exchange backup too. Anyway, okay. So because we scheduled this Exchange backup too, so it's going to do it at the same time, so it's going to slow down more stuff. So what I can do I can actually stop that part. This is our backup kicking in at this time. Um, so what I'm trying to say is under backup and infrastructure, for example, for backup proxies, you know, and the WAN accelerator. So backup proxies, we don't have backup proxies basically. So that's why they say when you're doing a replica job, you have to have a proxy on your primary side or your production side, and towards the DR side. So the reason for those proxies are to speed up the process. this one's still working actually. Yeah, this one's still working. Because guys, if you see here, we have a backup jobs, and you see the backup job was actually set up like start at like a 10:18. So that was the time. Remember when we were configuring it, we changed the time, like don't start at 10 o'clock, just do after some, like random time. So I canceled this one. That's why you see all these errors. Um, Here's the replication job. That was my first replication job actually. That was done. Yeah, it's gonna fail because we are actually restoring the same machine. We're supposed to do a replication backup, doing a first replication. So this one, during the time we are actually failing back, uh, uh, that's the reason it says, hey, it's giving you the error message right here. The processing error cannot process the VM because the target VM state is failover. So as soon as we did the failover back to a production, it changes the state to failover, failback to failover. Um, so let's see. So once this thing is done, then if everything is working fine, we can do a commit failback. So what is commit failback actually is a okay, so here's the deal. What is doing a failback to a production, and these options are the commit failback. What is commit failback is if you want to finalize, like okay, it's like it's put the stamp on the seal on it. Okay, hey, I'm done. So you wanted to finalize recovery of the original VM in the production site. So you're gonna say, hey, it's being done. Everything is working fine. So what does it do actually? With the Veeam backup and replication removes the protective snapshot. The one on a replica, it created a protective snapshot. So it's going to remove that a snapshot, and it's going to unlock the replica disks. And a original VM, on a production site or any other site where you store, is going to be working fine. Everything is great. Everything is wonderful, right? But for some reason, when you are failing back to the production machine with the changes, and let's say something goes wrong, let's say you thought you fixed, but it's not fixed. So in that case, what you can do it, you can undo failback. So what will happen is all the operation gonna go switch back to the replica. Remember, while it's doing this thing, your machine was still up and running. Let's double check it. Uh, I'm gonna close this thing. Okay, now the replica is powered off actually, and now your where is the PVS? So this machine is kind of is already powered on and it's up and running, right? So let's see what happened to our uh, replication. So this one is failback. So if I do where's my? I thought I can see the log actually. Okay, so if we go back to our machine right here, and now it's rolled back to production, and production machine is powered on. If we look here under a snapshot and snapshot manager, um, we still see a protective snapshot, which was 1018 right here, right? So if I'm not mistaken, once we go and we say, hey, you know what, this thing is done, let's go to a machine and log in to see if our changes were there or not. Because we created this changes while this thing was part of the replica. So from replica, see this one, from replica, we see the test one, another change, and this thing was done during that time. So we see our production machine, that, you know, which we restored from replica, it got all those changes, right? So now we have all those changes. Now we say, hey, the machine is working fine. I was able to RDP. So now let's go right here and commit Failback. So these are the questions in the exam. They're going to ask you, for example, hey, when you do a failover, what do you do after failover to finalize it? So after finalize it, you have a either commit Failback or do a undo Failback, right? But the key question is, when you are, this one is after you clicked on like a fail back to the production machine. But before you do the fail back to the production machine, there are other questions. For example, hey, what are you trying to do from replica to production? This one is after it's switched back to production. Okay, I'm gonna start over just for the last part. You have a production machine running. The reason I'm repeating this thing, they will ask you at least 5 questions on this one. I don't know how many you're gonna get hit either on a practice test or on a real test. But apart from practice or real test, this thing is very important from a knowledge perspective. If you are managing it or you're going to manage it, this thing you need to know. You have to have your concept clear, right? So this was the machine, original machine. We actually created a replica from this machine to right here. That was our number one, and then it created a multiple snapshots, you know, in like 5-6 hours. And then what we did, we actually created a failback from, we chose this snapshot, and we say, hey, go back to our production machine, and we made a bunch of changes on this snapshot, like 3 changes, 1, 2, and 3 changes, right? So when we say, hey, go back to production, it asks you, you know, like a couple of questions, and the questions were like, if it's gonna be a permanent failover, you can do a permanent failover, meaning this machine gonna stay here forever, or you can do a failback. You know, if you do a failback, then simply what you call it, a switch back to the original VM. That's it, you're done. And a you know, kind of disaster recovery site. And the third was undo failover. Undo failover was, hey, simply no change is gonna be written back to this one. You know, just like never happened basically. All the changes were discarded. So when we did a perform failback, it asked us few options, like where you wanted to fail it back to the original location, or on a different location. You know, it has a 3 or 4 questions. The reason is, depending upon our option, it was going to copy the data. If it's a new location and a new ESXi, is going to copy everything. Otherwise, if it's the original location, it's just going to copy your the VMDK file, which is a C drive basically, and it's going to only copy the changes, for example, right? So now what happened is a what you call it, we actually rolled back, um, and the replica was shut down, and this production machine was back up, and now they are asking actually hey, is your machine is working fine or not? and is this machine has the changes which were made to this machine while this machine was running as a replica, and we double checked yes. So we are 100% sure, hey, this machine is in a condition we can use it in a production, right? So now what are our option? If it were like, hey, this machine is still acting up, if we said this machine was still acting up, what would have been, okay, what was the case in that case? Let me clear all these things. So right now we know the machine is working fine, so we have the option right here. Come on. Um, right here, we can do a commit failback. If I click this one, that's it, it's done, right? If I do failback, what it's going to do, failback is going to switch everything back to the replica state, and replica state already have a protective snapshot. If I do commit failback, and it's going to remove the protective snapshot. So click, I'm going to click here, I'm going to say failback, everything is good, and it's going to start, let's see right here. Under replica, it should be removing the snapshot. I know we have two snapshots, right? So let's see what snapshot I'm going to be removing. Okay, unlocking the VM files, because the VM file get locked, nothing get changed during that time, and reverting VM to the latest restore point, blah blah blah, which was on 10/18, and failback operation stopped at this one. So now if you look under under replica, now if you run this job is back to see, now if you run this job, the last time during that time this job failed, but if you run this job again, and it's going to be successful because the replica is back to you know, the original condition. Hey, it's ready for another failover test. It's going to take another snapshot. 10/18. See right here. Oh, these were the original snapshot. Okay. So guys, you can see it's not like easy as 1, 2, 3. You have to spend a little time on this one to you know, to understand and have a hands-on. I'm glad. I mean, if this video helped you, even a 5%, 2%, or 1%, I'm happy. You know, I'm happy for you guys, and I like to help. And if I'm missing something, if I did not explain something correctly, or it's you know, you can always go back to a you know, the Veeam Help Center, because the Veeam Help Center will provide you up-to-date information, and these information supersede, you know, every other information you get from any other source, even what I'm saying, you know, because whatever I'm saying, it might be, it's the best of my understanding. You know, I'm not claiming like, hey, I'm you know, I know everything. I'm a architect. I'm not, because this is my understanding and my way of explaining, which might not you know, be very helpful to some people. But in any case, if I can prompt you guys to watch this video and implement Veeam, and go back to the Veeam website or the Help Center and get up-to-date information, I'm happy, you know. So again, if you like my videos, please do subscribe. And if you have any questions, you know, let me know. And is there anything else you want me to explain? I'll be more than happy to do it. And I sincerely, you know, thank you for you guys taking the time, and have a good day.